It feels good to be finally reviewing Series 9. Seriously, this has been such a long time in the making, and I'm glad I'm finally getting round to doing it. If you're wondering why I skipped the Dalek two-parter, it's because at the time of this being written, I don't really think there's much that I can add from what I said in my Series 9 ranking and my Downfall of the Daleks video. While the stuff with Davros is excellent, like, really, really excellent, pretty much everything else in the episode is shit, as it gave us the worst usage of Missy and her flanderized character until Series 10, showed us the worst of Moffat writing the Daleks poorly, and had Clara there for pretty much no reason. Like, seriously, her Series 9 arc retroactive fix literally doesn't even begin till this episode. Her inclusion in that first story is pointless. But all of those flaws can be ignored for this week, as today I'm reviewing Under the Lake and up next, Before the Flood. Quite possibly Toby Whithouse's most underrated story, but then again, most of Series 9 is underrated as well, so let's just get straight to it. This episode opens fantastically, showing us this underwater base set in the future, and showing us these mysterious markings on the inside of a ship they found. And the action picks up almost immediately as the ship malfunctions and kills off one of the crew members. And wow, of course it's the black one who dies. We cancel Toby Whithouse for being racist. Please. Twitter! Get to that shit! And this brilliant cold open ends by showing us Moran as a ghost, which then leads into the godly title sequence. Shame it's fucking out of sync again! I really like the scene of the Doctor and Clara arriving at the base, as it just shows the Doctor ignoring Clara to focus on things that seem far more interesting. Like, why is the TARDIS groaning, and where exactly are they? And I like how the TARDIS being set off is set up for earlier, as it sets up the scene for later, which links nicely to Clara's arc without it feeling shoehorned in or forced. Like a certain Dalek story written by a certain talentless twat who shall not be named, who will try to do things like this but have it be in the most unsubtle reasons imaginable, like having the TARDIS take 4 minutes to land somewhere for no reason. And I just want to say right now that the set design for this story is fantastic. They really sell you on the sense of being underwater with the stuff on the walls and the lighting used throughout. And the establishing shot of the base definitely helps this feeling as well. Also, I know this is a tiny detail, but I love when the Doctor sticks his hand in the tea to determine how long ago the chaos started. It's just so distinctly alien and reminds us of what makes the Doctor unique. I'm still scarred by Chibnall's era, so you come to appreciate really small details like this when you've had 2 series of the Doctor just sonicking everything. Additionally, the Doctor leaving Clara hanging on the high five was also amusing. The Doctor and Clara then find the ship, and the Doctor points out something very interesting, and that's that the TARDIS hasn't translated the markings in the inside of the ship. I think that this is one of the best things that a writer can do, and that's make the Doctor's gadgets useless throughout most of the episode. And some of my favourite writers do this a lot. Jamie Matheson does this in one of the only good Series 10 episodes, and I think that's what makes that episode so intense. Following that establishment, we see the ghost turn on the Doctor and Clara, and I like how this episode conveys their intentions clearly without them even speaking. And the threat of these ghosts are great, as we can see they can go through walls and pick up weapons. We have a comedic moment when the Doctor and Clara meet the crew, where the Doctor states that he could read sign language, but can't, because it's been replaced by a semaphore. And while this is funny, I do have to question how a language can be forgotten from his brain and replaced with another, when the Doctor knows so much. However, I do like the inclusion of a deaf character in this episode, because I don't think we'd ever seen one before this, and her deafness is shown in a really interesting way in some scenes later, where she has to feel the floor to be able to tell if the ghost was behind her, and it was much better than when they got a blind character in Series 11. She was fucking awful.
We need to get inside. It always comes out wrong now.
What the fuck was that delivery? The scene also tells us that the ghost in the top hat is from a different planet, presumably from the one that one from the God Complex was in. The best Series 6 episode, by the way. Which was from, coincidentally, written by Toby Whithouse. Unfortunately, this one isn't played by David Walliams, but I do love how Whithouse is keeping continuity in the universe. It's one of the many great reasons why I think he would be a great showrunner, because he is so great with continuity. He also shows this off as well later, with a cheeky nod to School Reunion. And while I don't like that episode, I appreciate the callback.
It wasn't Croydon. Where you dropped me off, it wasn't Croydon.
Where was it?
Aberdeen.
Right. That's next to Croydon, isn't it?
When they leave the Faraday cage, we get great natural feeling exposition and some comedic gold from Capaldi.
It's okay, I understand. You're an idiot. Well, otherwise... Sorry, why is this man still talking to me?
So the Doctor finds that there's a power cell missing, which leads the greedy one out to go and find it, which leads to his death later. And the Doctor then comes to the realization that they're ghosts. A great transition later, we see him revel in this fact. And this scene is honestly great to watch. Seeing the Doctor surprised by something that he truly doesn't know is great to see, and Capaldi plays this whole scene excellently. And the comedic timing of the scene where he doesn't realise how insensitive he's been because their friend died was also played off very well. I think this moment comes off so well because you can really believe that the Doctor was so wrapped up in his excitement that he would forget stuff like this. Especially with 12, who has trouble with social cues and sympathy, as shown previously.
Danny Pink.
Yeah?
Is dead.
Compare that to a scene where the 13th Doctor literally ignores Graham's worries about his fucking cancer returning, and then blames social awkwardness. Fucking hell, every time I write a review, I just get Vietnam flashbacks to the suffering that was reviewing Series 12. Oh, I can never forget the pain. Before we get more interesting discussion, however, the TARDIS cloister bell starts going off and we get the most underrated scene in this whole story, and the scene that started the retroactive fix of Series 8 Clara. I love how the scene starts playing out as if the TARDIS is going to malfunction with the intense music and the Doctor explaining the issue, only for the Doctor to put the handbrake on and then it's fine. It's a very well timed scene. I love how the Doctor just starts being upfront about the issue, claiming that there's only enough room for one Doctor, establishing that the issue is Clara being so obsessed with the Doctor and the life that he lives that she's starting to try and be like him. And unlike in Series 7, where Clara acting like the Doctor is constantly rewarded as if it's a good thing, even though it's just her being a pretentious cunt, here, it's treated how it should be, and that's as an issue. This isn't a good thing for a human to do, and it does lead to her eventual downfall and death. This scene alone, right here, retroactively fixes so many of Clara's issues in Series 8 by taking all those scenes that wouldn't really work as well otherwise and making them into an arc. The Clara Obsession Arc. I have a whole video on this, by the way, you should totally check it out, it's really good. After the death of Businessman 456, I also love this little mention of Specs wanting to work for UNIT, as it establishes more of Chibnall's neglection of Doctor Who's established lore, as this story was set well over 100 years in the future. But apparently in 2019 UNIT was shut down. To be honest though, at this point I wouldn't be surprised if Chibnall just brought back UNIT and then said in an interview like, it was all part of our plan to bring it back all along, yes. Yeah, sure mate, just like how bringing Jack back was always in your plan. Sure, we believe you, thousands wouldn't. The scene where it's revealed to the crew that Pritchard is another one of the ghosts was fantastic for building suspense. However, I feel like it's ruined the second he picks up the chair, because, well, to put it simply, why the fuck are none of you moving? You're all just standing there! And O'Donnell turning day mode back on just in time, it was just, it felt like a very cliched scene. I like the scene following, however, as it shows us that the crew have to stay on board because the ghosts were trying to escape it. So the Doctor puts the base on quarantine. It's quite similar to the Waters of Mars, and the fact that in that story for a while they can't leave in case the infection spreads. While obviously not being nearly as good, this still really works well at raising the stakes. So the crew decide to go ghost busting, and this entire scene is brilliant. It's intense, and the plan itself is great. The music and direction also help the scene additionally. The scene where Lund gets cornered by one of the ghosts also stands out really well. It's a super intense scene, and it just shows the threat these ghosts have, just by their appearance alone. Also, I love how when the ghosts are trapped inside, the Doctor uses the sonic sunglasses as a camera for the others to see. That's some really smart usage of them, and it's a shame that we didn't really see more stuff like that used in the rest of Series 9 or in Series 10. This does link nicely to the Doctor having to use them all the time when he was temporarily blind in Series 10, however. Well, it's not really a link, but you know what I mean. I also think that the Doctor going inside was great, as it shows the character's extreme confidence, and when he trolled them, it was just fucking hilarious.
Isn't it?
I think confidence might be one of the biggest tropes I miss as this character. I also think this scene was great for showing Cassius her deafness to her advantage, as deaf people are usually much better at lip reading than the rest of us, so this was a great way to show off that naturally. After that, we get a whole bunch of explaining from the Doctor with some natural Capaldi godliness, and the crew then all decide to stay. One thing I really commend about this whole scene, again, it's something you really come to appreciate because of Chibnall's era, is that all of these people actually feel like people. They don't just feel like useless spare parts that fade into the background until the episode remembers that they need to have a scene, or the Doctor needs someone to talk to. Hell, Chibnall even did this to Jack at points. Yes, fucking Jack! One of the best characters this entire show has ever seen has been reduced to background noise by Chibnall's grubby, dirty little fingers. Unfortunately, that great scene is then immediately followed by some really obvious budget-saving controls to the ship. They did something like this in Series 11 as well. However, it looks much worse there, because there were no exterior shots at all, making the whole thing look shit. This, while being a bit jarring, is nowhere near as bad. After they bring in the suspended animation chamber, we finally get explanations of what the symbols on the ship were, and this, I think, is fucking genius. It's such a great description of how to get something stuck in someone's head.
These words are an earworm, a song you can't stop humming, even after you die.
Disgustingly complex.
Unfortunately, Toby Whithouse, the evil bastard, knows how great all of this is, so he cuts it off short by having the base start to flood. So they all go to run at the TARDIS and the crew gets split in half, because of course they do. So the Doctor's half go back in time and the episode ends on this fucking excellent cliffhanger, showing the Doctor as one of the ghosts, and it just leaves your jaw dropped every time. It's such a great way to close an episode. So, that was Under the Lake, and this right here is one of the most underrated episodes of all time. It's such a near perfect setup for the second part. All the characters are brilliant, even if some are a bit poorly performed. The mystery is engaging as fuck throughout, and seeing it slowly being unraveled was great. The Doctor and Clara are fantastic here, and the Doctor especially really steals any scene that he's in. And the scene that retroactively starts fixing Clara's character is a highlight for me personally, showing us Moffat act on his mistakes with writing Clara in Series 8, and showing us once again that Toby Whithouse is one of the best character writers for the whole show. Now, can Before the Flood live up to the massive hype this episode set up? Let's find out. To be honest though, at this point I wouldn't be surprised if Toby... Fuck! I can't fucking speak.